I just played through one of the most ambitious FNAF remakes. First thing the dev says when you start the game is that it is not a simple RTX on. It is a ground up remake of Five Nights at Freddy's 1. It somehow manages to completely change the gameplay and the story while keeping the elements from the official game. It manages to combine story beats that are a decade old with stuff that was introduced less than a year ago. I will go through my experience playing through this game and you guys can decide if you agree with this being the perfect reimagining of Five Nights at Freddy's. We start the game in a red foggy void with nothing but a bodiless entity speaking to us. It asks us if we can hear it and if it reached the other side. When it confirms it did, it asks us some questions. What happens when the past gets infused with agony? Though this must have been rhetorical because he immediately gives us the answer. It twists, it bends, it becomes something else. Not really the best answer, but it is an answer. It then proceeds to say that they are here now, but not the same as before. Then he asks us why we drowned in the lake. At this point, I knew that this was referring to the Old Man Consequences minigame. For those of you who don't know, there is a minigame in FNAF World and Ultimate Custom Night where you are stuck in a red world with an old man, and the only way to escape is to drown in the lake. It seems us doing this has caused a disturbance in the force and brought us some consequences. Then, after some warnings and dev notes, we get an incredibly hype intro.
Vanished inexplicably during his night shift. Now, new details raise even more questions about what really happened within Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
After that, you get some narration from a news reporter explaining the disappearance of a person in a restaurant called Daniel. We start with a little minigame where we have to click through different rooms in the restaurant until we reach this room. Here, we have to download the phone calls for the night. While you do this, Bonnie will start moving to your room, which you can see on the cameras on the monitor next to you. And if he enters, you have to hide. A lot of newer FNAF games have been adding these types of minigames before entering the night, and honestly, I'm a bit mixed on them. It is so easy. You can get the download up to 90% before Bonnie even comes, and it's very obvious when he does because he slams the door very loudly. This also does not change in the future nights either. It's always the same thing with no increase in difficulty. It kind of feels like a 30-second long loading screen until you can start the night. Now, this minigame is important for the story, but that gets revealed after night 5. So while I was playing it, I didn't really understand why it was necessary to do this. But let's move on to the main shift. We start our shift at Monday. Yes, this game follows Pizzeria Simulator's way of labeling nights, and that's not the only thing it borrows, but that will come later. So we get a phone call from Michael, the manager of the restaurant, and we are Daniel, the missing security guard we heard about from the beginning. Michael gives us a brief introduction about the restaurant's founders, William Afton and Henry Emily.
A little history lesson for you. You see, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was founded by two friends, William Afton and Henry Emily. Real pioneers of family entertainment, and they built this place on innovation, fun, and, well, let's just say that their legacy is still rocking the stage every night.
And then tells us how to play the game. Let's start by talking about the office. You have the CRT TV in front of you, which is your maintenance panel. You can reboot the cameras, turn on the fire alarms, and seal the vents. Out of these, the alarm is the most used. I only had to seal the vents in night 6, and the only time you need to reboot the cameras is if you make a very avoidable mistake. Then you have a door to your left, with a light and a door switch. You have to hold the levers to keep them active. Then you have the right hallway. All you can do is turn on the flashlight here. This may seem scary, but ironically, the right hallway is a lot easier to deal with than the left. I will get to why later. Next, the cameras, and these bad boys are very clean. Compared to the old games, this is basically 4K. Now, this is both a good thing and a bad thing. The good part is that you can see the animatronics very clearly. The bad thing is that you can see the animatronics very clearly. It lessens the horror factor for gameplay convenience. But I think that is good because this game introduces horror in other aspects. Lastly, the cameras also have a flash feature. Now, the animatronics. Freddy is very simple. He will laugh and taunt you, telling you to find him. You have to search through the top couple rooms of the building and flash him to put him back on stage.
Don't you dare hide. Go on, shut your head again.
Wait too long and he will instantly come into your office and stuff you in his suit. Freddy must have a fetish for being fast because he could easily kill you at any moment but chooses to play this little game of hide and seek. Now he's not that difficult to deal with unless you were blind, and I must have been because I died to Freddy a lot, all because of the restroom camera. This is the only camera I had a problem with. On the other cameras he gets up close and personal, but here he is all the way in the back hiding in the woman's restroom and I just kept missing him. Next we have Chica. She will wait for food in a dining hall. Eventually she will just go into the kitchen. Then you have to ring the service bell to move her back into the dining hall, and you will be ringing this bell a lot because she has a bigger appetite than Nikado Avocado. She must be possessed by Lizzo. On later nights you will end up having to ring the bell multiple times within the span of a few seconds, and I don't know how she can move that fast with how fat her ass is. She is like that fat Godskin in Elden Ring. Anyway, fat jokes aside, if she stays in the kitchen for too long, she will enter the vent. This is very easy to avoid as long as you just look at the dining hall a lot and always ring the bell whenever she's not there. And lastly for now, we have Bonnie. Bonnie will look straight into the cameras, and if you look at him, it will slow him down. But if you look too long, he will punch the cameras the Joy of Creation style and move to the next position.
Stay alert and enjoy your night.
If a camera gets destroyed, you have to reboot it, which takes a while. So just switch between the cameras so you don't have to deal with this. But that's not all. He can come from either the left door or the right door. If he comes from the left door, then just close the door until he slams his head against it and leaves. But if he comes from the right, you have to wait until he comes in and turn on the alarm. This will make him go away back to the stage. When I first played, this part was terrifying, and I panicked a lot, which led to a lot of game overs. But if you just calm down and think about things, this pathway is a lot easier to deal with. When he is at the door, you can't look at the cameras, so you can't deal with Chica or Freddy. But you can look at the cameras while he is at your desk and the alarm is playing. So as long as you play the alarm the second he comes into your office, then you don't have to worry about anything. So basically, this whole render of him being in your office, staring at you, is just thumbnail based. So this is the main gameplay. I think you guys can see some favoritism happening. Bonnie does a lot more than the other characters. This may have been a reference to Scott saying that Bonnie was his favorite character. Now while playing the game, this isn't really that big of a deal because each of the characters' unique mechanics fit them pretty well. By the way, whenever you die, the death screen is a voice line from the animatronics basically teabagging you, and in this screen you get the name of the person that possesses the suit and also a lot of info about what the character does. Now this does kind of ruin the mystery aspect of figuring out what the animatronics do yourself, but it helped me out a lot, so I won't complain about it. Okay, that was a lot, but the next couple nights will be a lot shorter. On night 2, we start downloading the phone calls. In this phone call, Michael is surprised we came back and explains some things. He says that the backstage camera will be out of order, but I think he meant the safe room because the backstage is never out of order. He also says the reason why the kitchen is out of order is because Bonnie had a big party in there. Anyway, the phone guy talks about a lot of stuff that isn't really important, but it does add to his character and gives us some information about stuff surrounding this restaurant.
Yeah, so no kitchen feed until Friday. Oh, but hey! Chica loves it in there, so when she's in there, you'll hear her banging around. Probably knocking over pots and pans for all her janitors to clean up. They're so underpaid.
I have to say the voice actor here did a great job at making Michael sound like a young manager that is just trying to get by. He is reading through a script to make sure he doesn't say anything wrong, but slips up and lets his true thoughts out every once in a while. One of the best phone guys in FNAF fan games.
Really gets under your skin after a while. But hey! That just makes his bright smile even brighter, right? Okay, which corporate wrote this?
But that's about it for the night. Nothing else of note happened. So on to night 3. We first download the phone call and Michael is more questioning about why we are still here. He also says some things about Freddy liking to mess with the generator, but I don't really know what this is referring to. There is not a power out situation in the game, so this might just be some kind of misleading lore thing that isn't actually representing the gameplay. Anyway, Michael tells us not to ask about the safe room because the last guy that did hasn't been heard from for a while, but it seems seems we don't listen to his advice. Judging by the news report from the beginning, he also tells us that they are going to get an endoskeleton delivered tomorrow. Anyway, he ends off by telling us to enjoy the silence while it lasts. I disagree with that. Everything up until now has kind of just been an introduction, a tutorial. After this is when the fastballs start rolling around at the speed of sound. Anyway, on to night 4. Well, first we have a little minigame before that. We play as the purple guy, who is probably William Afton. In this minigame, we lure a kid into the back room and kill him. Honestly, it is a little strange that the kid is using the dead kid sprite before we kill him. I feel like this was a bit of an oversight, but after we kill the child, the screen glitches out a lot and we move on to the downloading phone calls minigame. Then we start the night and Michael questions us again for why we're still here, but also says that they had a bit of a problem with the endoskeleton. Apparently it is not the correct one. This one is a little weird, but instead of focusing on that, let's talk about Foxy. He gets active this night and is very sensitive to noises. The more noise we make, the faster he will move out of his cove. But this time when he attacks you, he will come from either the left door or the right door, and you have to either flash him with your flashlight or close the door, depending on the direction. He repeats this a couple times until he gets tired and moves back.
Here's Foxy, coming to get ya!
Also, when Foxy's active, none of the other animatronics move, but somehow I still got myself in a kind of unfair situation. You see, the first time Foxy attacked me, Bonnie was also in my room, and I had the alarms turned on while Foxy was doing his left or right door thing. And then a little bit after Foxy left, the alarm ended up turning off, and I'm guessing because Bonnie's movement timer was paused, he didn't actually count the alarm being active while Foxy was doing his thing, and Bonnie just killed me. This was just a very unlucky moment for me. Like, everything just went wrong. I was destined to get bent over and railed. Anyway, after this night ends, we have another new minigame.
This is Henry Emily, the founder and, for better or worse, the sole person responsible for this place's continued existence.
That's right, we have a Pizza Sim salvage section, and we are face to face with the Mimic, who is the endoskeleton that was delivered. If you don't know, the Mimic is a new villain in the FNAF series. You got a whole game about him just a while ago. Basically, he can turn into different animatronics, and also likes to kill people like William Afton. I don't really know much about the new lore, because I kind of fell off of FNAF after UCN, and only just recently got back into it. But I know that this is a serial killer robot, and it is in front of us. Now, this minigame works the same as Pizza Sim. We have Henry on the tape recording telling us vague things about the robot. The recording will play some noise, and we have to check a checkbox after each tape. We also have to shock the Mimic if it moves too much. Also, Henry told us to stop the recording when it glitches out. I didn't know when this was, so I just kept letting it play, and I still managed to get through it by just shocking him once, so I don't think it was that big of a deal. But one more thing, at the end, Henry tells us to not listen to anything the Mimic says.
If at any point that thing starts speaking to you, not mimicking, not repeating, but speaking in its own voice, don't listen to it. Don't do anything it tells you to do. Get out. Abandon the test.
Now, this didn't happen to me, and I don't know if it can happen, so I'm just gonna ignore this information for now. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about the Mimic, because I don't really know that much about it. All I really know is that it was created by some guy named Edwin, and it likes killing people. Anyway, let's move on to night 5. This time, the 2 disabled cameras are active. The kitchen is on, so you can look at Chica's feet while she is practicing for her debut in Hell's Kitchen. You also have the safe room active, and you can see the string duo and the Mimic sitting in there. Michael also talks about the past of this restaurant. It used to be called Freddy Bear's Family Diner, and there was some incident that happened involving kids. Lastly, he tells us to ignore any strange noises and to not try to play the hero.
Tonight is nice and simple. Just watch those cameras, keep Freddy on the stage, and if you hear any strange noises, don't investigate. Corporate says it's fine. Don't try to play hero, Daniel. Have a good night.
But we continue to play through the night anyways, and everything is normal for the first 6 hours. But when we hit 6 AM, we get a message from Henry.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you like this, but I'm afraid your time is up. Your curiosity and your need for answers are what first brought you here. And now, they have become your undoing. Because all those who enter this place are doomed to never leave. There are monsters who steal others' voices, monsters who steal others' souls. And then there is you, the one who craved to learn more than he should, and more than he ever will. You will not find the answers you seek here, only your ruin. But while your sacrifice will be forgotten, the impact it will have will not, as the wounds of the past left to fester can finally heal. There will be no more suffering, no more loss, only peace. Peace and a forgotten tomb sealed away, never to be opened again. It all ends tonight, in communication.
After that speech, we have a boss fight with Golden Freddy. Now, as the instructions said, we have to listen to what the hallucinations tell us to do. If it says right door, we flash him. If it says left door, we close the door. Cameras, flash him in the entrance or the backstage. Honestly, Golden Freddy isn't that hard, but the music sure is. And after we get to the boss fight, the entire building still burns down anyway, and we burn alongside all the animatronics. So yes, Henry burned down the entire place and freed all the souls. But then that begs the question, why did he burn us alongside all of them? What did we do wrong? Aren't we just working the night shift? Well, after this, we get a little news report explaining what happened.
In what officials are calling a nightmare scenario. Flames tore through the building just after 7 a.m., with witnesses reporting smoke so thick it blotted out the morning sun. Firefighters arrived, but the inferno had already consumed the entire structure. Authorities confirm all employees escaped unharmed, and thankfully, no customers were inside at the time. However, in a grim twist, investigators have revealed two disturbing details. First, the restaurant's infamous animatronic characters, along the centerpiece of the franchise, were completely destroyed in the blaze. And second, even more unsettling, there was an intruder inside when the fire broke out. Security footage recovered from an external camera shows an unidentified individual entering the building in the middle of the night. Their motives remain unknown. What is certain, however, is that they never made it out. Police have not yet released a description, but sources close to the investigation say the manner of death was, unquote, horrific. This tragedy only deepens the dark legacy of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. After years of controversy, bizarre incidents, and persistent rumors of hauntings, many are asking, was this arson, an accident, or something far more unnatural and sinister? We'll continue to follow the story shortly for Channel 7 News. Stay tuned.
So yeah, apparently we were just an intruder the entire time, but then why would we be dealing with the animatronics all night long? Well, I don't really know, but we get a possible explanation after the news report. We enter the red fog area again, and the entity tells us that we have died. Then it asks us if we have achieved what we wanted, but it assumes that we didn't. There is something else that we want to do, something we want to clear up. Then the entity tells us that we can travel to the past, to a past where someone else failed to do something. He then tells us that he will show us the golden ones. We return to the main menu and have 1 star unlocked, but of course we have a 6th shift, so let's go to the dawn of 83. In this night, the only animatronics are Fredbear and Springtrap, and I will explain how they work. Fredbear will move into your office, and you have to use the alarm to get rid of him. Also, if you flash him on the cameras, he will disable it, and you have to reboot. Spring Bonnie will move into a room, and you have to flash him to move him back to the stage. They can also enter the vents, which will have a sound cue, and if that happens, just seal it very fast to stop him. This was the only time where sealing the vents was actually necessary for survival. Anyway, the 6th night was very good. I really like the idea of making the 6th night something special and not just a harder version of the previous nights. Anyway, I don't really have much else to say about it. After we beat the night, we get this little VHS tape. It's basically like one of those analog horror videos. It is an instruction tape for the toy animatronics that glitches out and shows us some creepy stuff.
In this tape, we will guide you through the process of cleaning our beloved animatronics. It is important to follow these steps carefully and thoroughly to keep our characters in tip-top shape and ensure everyone's safety.
How to clean the joints
elements and mechanisms.
First of all, you will need a soft brush, a mild cleaning solution, and a dry towel. Avoid using any harsh chemicals as they can damage the animatronic suit. Using said soft brush, carefully clean the joints and mechanical parts while avoiding any visible human remains.
Human remains.
There is a moment when it switches to 1983 and we hear this voice. I think this voice is William Afton during the spring locking. It just kinda makes sense with the context of the words he's saying. But anyway, after that bit of analog horror, the entity then asks us if we are satisfied with what we saw, if we are satisfied with the legacy. Then he notices that we want to go back to the past, because even with all that has happened, we still have nostalgia for it. The voice tells us to continue down the lake if we want to return and see the legacy again. Honestly, the story was really cool. I may not have understood it fully, but I think the gist of it is that we are someone that drowned in the lake to try and go back to the past and relive the events of the original game, to try and relive the legacy, which is a very cool concept. And yes, the story is very confusing, but the actual FNAF story is confusing as well. So we can just say that this game was trying to be accurate to the FNAF lore. But more importantly than the story, the game was just really fun to play. And I hope you had a fun experience watching me talk about this game. I don't know how many people are going to watch this, not to mention make it to the end, but if you did, then thank you. Leave a like and subscribe because it really helps me out. Also, some of the gameplay used was from the channel Indie Fuel. I would have preferred to use my own footage, but ran into issues. First of all, I played this on a Steam Deck. If you're wondering why, it's because this is literally the best gaming system I have, and also the most comfortable way for me to play. And the game worked perfectly fine on it, but there was one issue I had, and that was with the display. For some reason, the game didn't fit within the Steam Deck's display of 16 by 10, and that meant that part of the screen was a bit cut off. I don't know why this happened, but after testing it out a bit, I found out that this only happens when I start the night. When I close the game and reopen it, everything looks fine, but then when I start the night, everything gets a bit zoomed in. Now, this was a problem because at first I was recording with OBS and set it to display capture, which directly captures what is on the display. And also, the dev put a note at the beginning recommending people to do this, but I guess he wasn't expecting me to be a mythical creature that plays Five Nights at Freddy's fan games on the Steam Deck and didn't account for the display not showing correctly. Anyways, after using OBS, I tried using Steam's built-in recording feature, and that worked perfectly because that records the actual game and not the screen. So basically, nights 4, 5, and 6 is my own gameplay, while nights 1, 2, and 3 and the cutscenes are Indie Fuel's. Anyways, I highly recommend you go play this game. It's really fun. And after coming from playing the cancelled FNAF Plus games, it was a huge tonal shift to go from those broken, unfinished games to a actual good one. Anyway, that's it. I have been your average depressed Gooner Pumpkin, and thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time.